are interested in becoming one, take a look at the registration. It's now open, and join us for that day. You can do so right on our website. We also have some upcoming training. So some of you may be familiar, we used to handle all of our training in person. Of course, now that is all online. For any users of Global Mapper, so Global Mapper is our desktop GIS software, we have our last public training of the year coming up in the first 2 weeks of December. So the first week of December, we're going to be diving into Global Mapper, and then the second week of December, we'll be diving into the LiDAR module. So if you'd like to join myself and a couple of my colleagues, we'll be rotating through hosting that class over, I guess it'll end up being about 7 days total. We do still have spots open in that class. So if you're a Global Mapper user and you really want to learn more, feel free to head over to our training website and register for that. A little bit more exciting is we are, for the first time in a long time, offering a public version of our Applied Geodesy and Geographic Calculator application training. So Geographic Calculator is our desktop geodetic software solution, which is really a mainstay and prominent geodetic tool in the oil and gas industry. So perhaps some of you are already Geographic Calculator users, but you want to expand your knowledge of Geographic Calculator, or you're just aware that it exists and it's a common oil and gas standard for geodetics. This is definitely a training class worth attending. It will be one class over 4 2-hour sessions. So towards the end of January, we're going to do it over 2 days, morning and afternoon sessions. And that'll be hosted by my colleague, Sam Knight. So he is our Director of Product Management. And I think I'll probably be joining him for that course as well. So if you're interested in learning about Geographic Calculator Desktop, how we can think about applying geodesy to our everyday workflows, and better perfecting our geodetic analysis, this will definitely be a useful class for you. But let's go ahead, switch gears a bit, and let's get into GeoCalc Online. So today I'm going to introduce GeoCalc Online. We'll talk about what it is, how it relates to some of our other products, and how you as our users can access it. We'll then look at searching the registry. So there's a variety of different ways that we can search the registry and find definitions and objects and geodetic information that we may need. We'll talk about then, once I find objects, how do I interact with them? So what are all the different ways I can view information, use, and otherwise utilize the information that's available to me through the registry? We'll talk about the brand new point-to-point calculator. So this is one of the probably biggest new tools in GeoCalc Online. So how can I utilize Geographic Calculator to perform conversions, transformations, and things like that right in the cloud? And then I'll discuss a little bit how GeoCalc Online interacts with all of our other software solutions, because the vast majority of them pull from GeoCalc Online. So it's good for us to have an understanding of how that works. So we're going to switch over now, and I'm going to bring up GeoCalc Online. So we're going to be working in that live. Before I do, I just want to tease to get you thinking about GeoCalc Online as a professional service. So I'll come back and I'll elaborate on this. Essentially what this would be is a private version of GeoCalc Online that we're going to look at today, but set up just for your company. So what we're going to look at shortly here is fully public and accessible on the web. And when we wrap up with that, I'll talk a little bit about how we can customize this for more private use. So let's go ahead and take a look at GeoCalc Online. So this right now is the live homepage. I'm on the website. As I mentioned, it's been live for going on about 3 years now, I guess. And so what this tool is, at its core, it's a database. And it's a database of all of our geodetic definitions. It ties into all of our products then that use any reference to our geodetic definitions, which in reality is almost, if not all of our products. It provides us with a search portal, so we can search, navigate, and find a variety of geodetic definitions. For users who customize this in their own environment that I was just hinting at, they can add proprietary definitions as well. It is a flexible web app. So, today I'm working on desktop, but we could be on a laptop or we could be on a mobile device out in the field. So although we're not demoing that today, it's important to keep in mind that this site and this tool are fully mobile optimized, so that if you're in the field and you need to perform a quick search or a quick transformation or conversion of a point, you'll be able to do that right on your mobile phone or tablet. So most of the text on the start page here that we're viewing now is just giving us a little bit of background on the tool. So what is it? How is it set up and laid out? You'll notice on the top right here that I'm already logged in. We'll talk about later on what logging in does for us, what it gets us, and what it allows us to access. For right now, what you need to know is that if you have a Blue Marble website account, you may have that because you have purchased from us before, or you have signed in to download an application, or for any number of reasons. So as long as you have that, currently you can sign into GeoCalc Online. We'll keep in mind today, I'll try to keep the site active. Obviously, like any logged in site, it does have a timeout, so if you get a little stale, you may just have to log back in. When we finish talking through the site today, I'll talk in some details on the current trial period, which we have just started, and discuss how that's going to transition to a subscription product down the road. So as I mentioned, I am right on the website live now. If I run into any congestion or web slowdown, since I'm also streaming this video, I'll kick over to some preset slides of the site. Hopefully we don't have to do that and the internet cooperates, but just in case, we do have that as a backup. So the first tool and section that I want to look at is the search functionality in GeoCalc Online. That's probably the reason the majority of us are going to come hit the site, right? I'm looking for a certain geodetic definition or object or whatever the case may be, and I need to find that. And we have a few different ways to access searching. So searching can be conducted either based on the map or based on our advanced search on the left-hand side of the site here. The map search is fairly intuitive and an easy way to perform a quick default search. So perhaps I want to search based on a bounding box. I can click and draw a bounding box on my map. We'll notice the bounds of that are populated, and I can run a quick search. My results are sorted based on the type of geodetic definition that has been returned. So we'll see everything from geodetic coordinate systems, datum transformation, etc. All of that is organized and available to us. Regardless of how we search, we'll see the same type of results. So if I were to search based on my location rather than a bounding box, so we'll see the website grabs my current location by default. So this is where I live in the state of New York. But I can click anywhere else on the map. So maybe I'll click, near our company's headquarters. And then again, for that location I clicked, I can see again all of the corresponding geodetic objects for that region. I can drill down into any of them and expand and begin to see information on them. So we'll see for projected coordinate systems in this region, I have a large amount of objects available to me. Our search results by default are sorted by the smallest area of use. So essentially we're looking very local and then increasing in area of use as we navigate through our list. Just to point out, so we see this grouping here called late bound. A late bound definition is one that we can think of as not tied directly to a transformation. So this is or has been the more modern way of doing things, where you have either a geodetic coordinate system or a projected coordinate system, and that is separate from any types of transformations. What we're starting to see come back in popularity is what's called an early bound coordinate system, and that is where your projection or your datum is fixed to a certain transformation. So just want to clarify that in case anybody's curious why we're seeing the late bound identifier here. But let's go ahead and let's talk about the advanced search for a little bit and how that allows me to dig into my data source a little bit more. So I could perform my advanced search right here. This search panel is always available to us. Or if I wanted, I could go back to the search page and start the advanced search again. I have three different ways in which I can restrict my advanced search. I might do so based on certain types of objects. So we'll see here, there's those early bound systems I mentioned, if we had any. What will probably be the most useful to us is our object type filter. So I can define what types of objects I want to include as part of my results. So when I first start searching here, we'll leave these as default, but I'll go ahead and adjust them, and so we can see how we can refine our results a little bit. So first thing maybe I'll search for is any systems based on given text. I could enter an EPSG code here if I wanted, or any other certain text that I want to search by. But if I search just for a given word, it's going to return all objects which match or contain that word. So we'll see I have 53 matches overall across a variety of object types. So I could go ahead and expand a certain object type. Maybe I'm curious what geodetic coordinate systems I found. I can see I have one of the Surgas systems and a couple different Bogota geodetic coordinate systems that come up as part of my result. I could do similarly if I wanted to look at projected coordinate systems and navigate through that complete list. The same idea holds true for datum transformations and concatenated transformations as well. Now, one thing we might notice here is this gets a little unwieldy, right? I have a lot of search results that hit my search term. How can I further narrow that down to help me clean up my results a little bit? So that might be a time where I want to use my object type filter. So let's say, for argument's sake, right now I'm only concerned with looking for projected coordinate systems. I don't care about any geodetic or geocentric systems, and I don't need to find any transformations. So if I update my filters only to show a projected coordinate system, my search results then will be narrowed down just to a projected system. Now that list is much more manageable. I don't have to navigate through my geodetic systems and everything else that had shown up initially. So I can much more easily navigate and find the specific definitions that I'm looking for. And so once I've done that, I have a variety of different ways that I can begin to interact with these definitions, because we probably just don't want to see it in the list here. Although in this list, we do have some good information. I know the EPSG code associated um, with the system. I know things like the area of use, the minimum and maximum bounding points, and information of that nature. But what I probably want to do is dig into this in a little more detail. So I can click on any system to be taken to the information page for that system. What this allows me to do is dig into all the parameters associated, in this case, with that projected coordinate system. I can expand and collapse subsections as I need. So if I need to understand what identifiers are associated with a given system, I can expand that section. We can see information related to the area of use and its identifiers, point styles, update history, so specific updates to a given system. We can dig into all of that as well. So a whole bunch of that information is available to us just by clicking on the system and heading into its information page. If I go back to my search results, I want to point out these buttons on the right here called action items. Now I know in a couple screen shares we've done, these pop-up menus don't carry over, so please excuse if they don't, but I'll talk through what I'm seeing here. It's just a menu list of options. So when I expand my actions menu, I have a handful of options that I can begin to select. So viewing the definition obviously will take us just to the definition page like we just saw. But the next three options in this menu pertain to how I can share information associated with a given definition. So perhaps I need to print this definition, and whether that's printing to a PDF, printing to paper, whatever the case may be, choosing to print the definition opens a new tab in my web browser and brings me to a summary page of my definition. I can still interact with my map before I print. I can see all of the information associated with that given definition before I print it. Some very common views that we may take are viewing a given definition either by its GML or its WKT. So GML and WKT are just very common standards for how we might structure information associated with a given coordinate reference system. And so we have the ability to default view either of those right from the object itself. It's worth noting that when you view the info for a certain system, you can access all those same actions right here. So I don't necessarily have to use that actions menu. I can, navigate into the information for a system and then choose to print it or share it as GML or WKT. When you're on the system page, you also have this nice option of creating a URL. So this creates a direct link to this definition. So if you need to share it with a coworker, you now have a direct web link right to the specific page that you can copy and share and use as you need. There are two other action items I want to at least highlight now. We're not quite going to get into using them yet, but I want to point them out because they're here. So the very bottom of the actions list has two options for setting a converter source and setting a converter target. So when we take a look at the calculation tool, which we're going to shortly, what we'll have the ability to do is perform a search and then add definitions directly to that calculator as my source and as my target. But before we do that, let's talk about the new point-to-point calculator in a little more detail. So just next to the search tool on our top toolbar is our calculator tool. For those of you who are Geographic Calculator desktop users, this tool is going to look very familiar to you. It is essentially what we call the interactive job on Geographic Calculator desktop. It allows us to perform three main operations. We can perform a conversion that allows us to convert essentially a point from one coordinate system to another. We can conduct a forward operation. So that allows me to input a given starting point and then calculate an output point based on a given distance and azimuth. Similar to a forward operation, I could perform an inverse. Inverse allows me essentially to determine the distance and bearing between two input coordinates. And so we're going to look at all three of those now and see how they function for us. So to start, we'll look at the convert operation, and that will be our default operation. And I should say really more than just convert, it allows us to perform datum transformations and reprojections. It takes one input point and creates a given output point. So the first thing we'll want to do is choose our source point coordinate system. So again, for those of you who work in Geographic Calculator desktop, this is probably a similar layout to you. We're working with the same database. We're navigating into the same database definitions to find whatever objects of interest we may need to be working with. So in this case, first, I'm just going to grab a datum from North America. I will enter my coordinate points here. So just a control point we use often because we know where it is near our office. Giving it a name is completely optional. You don't need to provide a name. For now, I'm going to leave my target coordinate system as WGS84 just for this example, but I could navigate in here if I wanted to and pick a different coordinate system just like I did for my source. Now watch what happens here when I choose select transformation. A transformation is populated automatically and I didn't have the option to select anything. So this is the case where my transformation between my source and my target only has one option. So there's only one way to go in this case from my source NAD83 2011 to WGS84. Since I don't have any other options, the tool populates that transformation automatically. When I choose to calculate, my output point is then calculated and I'm alerted of the success of the calculation. Now in a more complex scenario, I might have a source and a target that have a variety of transformations between them. So in this case, this is a very old datum for North America. And then WGS84 is obviously a very common global system. When I choose to transform between the two, in this case, we're going to get a picker option here. This is because there are a variety of transformations between the two, and I have the ability to choose whichever is appropriate for my given transformation. If you need to search more information about these, you can always reference the EPSG code, head over to the search tool, and search to find some more information about them. Now you might have noticed, since I made that change, my point information is red. So this means that it hasn't been confirmed and I have made some other change to the tool, right? So this is no longer my active output point because I changed my source datum and I changed my transformation. Once I run the calculation, the text will turn black, confirming that everything has been processed and giving me my new calculated output points. Again, alerting me to the fact that it has been a success. I can always use the clear data tool if I want to clear out my source and target points. If I prefer a little bit cleaner interface, I can clear that out here. Before we look at forward and inverse, let's go back to the search tool for a second. So let's say that I know what source and target coordinate system I want to use, but I don't know maybe where they are in this picker, or I don't want to take the time to dig through everything to try to find it, right? Because we have a very large database and I don't want to have to dig through that entire data source to find my object in question. So what I'll do is I'll start on the search page, make sure my default search is back after I had manipulated it earlier. And in this case, we'll perform the same search as before. What I'll do is, in this case, I just am looking for a datum, and I'll find the geodetic coordinate system I want. So let's say we're looking for Bogota 1975. This is where I will use the set as source and set as converter options. So I will first choose to set it as my converter source, and then choose to set it, in this case, as my converter target. Now, the reason I did that is because I want to perform a forward and inverse calculations now, and when those are done, they need to be done on the same datum. We'll see now the source and target coordinate systems have updated. So previously I had, NAD 27 here and WGS 84 here. Using that option from the search page is a quick way for me to update the source and the target right from there without having to manually navigate through the picker here. When I choose then to perform a forward calculation, we're going to notice this job changes a little bit. No longer am I asked to pick a transformation, but I'm provided with a method and some other options. So again, a forward calculation will essentially calculate an output point based on my input location and some parameters associated with that. So let's say we'll enter our source latitude and longitude. And if you ever enter a value here that doesn't match your datum, you'll get an alert and the app will tell you your point falls out of the range of your datum. Please adjust it. You can choose a variety of methods for calculating your forward calculation. In this case, let's say we're going to go 100 meters and we'll go due east 90 degrees. Again, these values are red because I haven't performed my calculation yet. But when I do, I'll have now my new output point. So I can see now this point is 1,000 meters to the east of my source point. Again, my conversion alerts me that it was successful. Similar to the forward job, an inverse calculation, equally as straightforward, I think, but it allows us to calculate the distance between 2 points. So now I will be providing a source point and a target point, and then what gets calculated are these distance and azimuth values in between. So let's say, let me adjust this a little bit. We'll make these a little farther apart. So what I'm saying is I know my source, I know my target, I want to know the distance and azimuth between them. When I calculate, I'll see I now have a new distance and azimuth value for those points. So we're talking about pretty far distance, right? Almost 100,000 meters. My azimuth is the shortest distance between the 2 points. And then the back azimuth is a little bit more obscure. Not as many people use it, but it's essentially, think of it as taking the long way around the Earth. So we're going back the other way rather than taking the shortest distance between those 2 points. As you are newer to this tool, I encourage everyone to take a look at the help option. So the help will open in a brand new web browser tab. You can navigate through each section of the tool with detailed steps and graphics on how to use it. So it'll explain essentially a lot of what I have talked through today while providing us examples and further definitions of all the options. So if you need to understand better what all your filter restrictions are or things of that nature, you can do that as well. Definitely a good resource for learning the tool as you're first getting used to it, especially if you need it quick in a pinch to understand whatever you're trying to accomplish. So let's just go back and talk about now who has access to this a bit. So this tool was just officially released, I guess it was last week, so it just went live to the public. Currently, as it stands now, anybody with a Blue Marble website account has full access to the tool. That will be probably for the next couple of months. We don't have a hard deadline on that yet. After that time frame and through the remainder of 2021, anybody with an active Geographic Calculator desktop license will have access to full functionality of Geographic Calculator Online. So that's giving us a little over a year of a full long trial period so that our users have the ability to access the tool, learn what it does, see how it may fit in with their workflows, and begin to work with it a little bit. Once we come to the end of 2021, that is when this product will require a subscription, and there will be more details on that throughout the coming year. Essentially, what you'll need to know is once 2021 comes to an end, anybody on the web will still be able to access the search. So that will still be freely available to everybody. If you sign in with just a Blue Marble account, you'll be able to access all of the actions associated with an object or definition. If you have then signed in with an account that also has a subscription to GeoCalc Online, you'll be able to access the calculator. So the calculator is the main portion of this tool that once this open period ends at the end of 2021, will require a subscription. But again, for now, for the next couple months, undetermined time frame here, anybody with a Blue Marble website account can log in and get full access to this tool. So I mentioned a little bit that GeoCalc Online is also accessed by our other tools. So you may be a global mapper user. Maybe you use global mapper, our desktop GIS software. Anytime you perform any sort of coordinate system or projection searches in that tool, so there's an option in there essentially to search by EPSG code. That will be searching GeoCalc Online, and that will just happen as part of Global Mapper. You might be a Geographic Calculator desktop user. There are some instances where Geographic Calculator desktop will automatically search GeoCalc Online. You may also be a user of what we call our GeoCalc SDK, so the SDK version of Geographic Calculator. Those OEM customers can also configure the GeoCalc SDK to access GeoCalc Online as well. So it's GeoCalc Online is a large part of a variety of our tool sets. So let's talk a little bit about what I had hinted at earlier as the GeoCalc Online professional services. So I had mentioned that everything I had shown and everything that we have done on the public version in GeoCalc Online today can also be done in a private corporate installation of GeoCalc Online. So this can, and in fact it already has been, fully customized and deployed to a variety of our customers who run it in a private cloud environment. So if your organization has a cloud behind a firewall, um, other internal installation setups, or a variety of custom and proprietary coordinate systems or datum or whatever the case may be. We can customize GeoCalc Online fully so that in addition to having access to all of the public tools, you also have full control over your private data source definitions as well. So you can customize your coordinate systems, folder schemes. Maybe you need to customize the order and structure of your data. So we saw me navigating through the data source to pick my source and target coordinate systems. That can be fully customized. That structure can be fully customized for how things are arranged within your organization. We can also provide the ability to fully manage users and their logins. So using your own internal credentials, you can control who has access to which portions of the data source, how they interact with definitions, and how they use the tool overall. Can also remove all of our branding, institute your company's own branding, and further customize the site as you need to. So some of the original sites that we had deployed, as I had mentioned, originally those were on Amazon Web Services. Now we've switched over to host them on Microsoft Azure, but our corporate systems have been set up on both, and they can be set up on both. So if this is something that is of interest to you, please reach out to us to get some more information. We can give you a better feel for all that can be accomplished and understand your needs as well to see what may or may not be a fit. So that wraps up this talk and this introduction to GeoCalc Online. I encourage all of you to go check it out. If you don't have a Blue Marble website account, you'll be prompted to sign up for one from the sign-in option on GeoCalc Online, or you can go right to our website, bluemarblegeo.com, and set up an account as well. I'd encourage you to send any questions our way. So our two main email addresses here. geohelp@bluemarblegeo.com is our support line. So if you have any technical related questions, send those that way. And then orders@bluemarblegeo.com would be for any sales and pricing related inquiries, would be the place to go there. So if we're set up for it, I'm happy to answer any questions that we may have now. Thank you all for attending today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff, for the presentation today, and gracias a todos también por atender. Y ahora está abierto el floor para cualquier pregunta, comentarios. Y si quieren también compartir las preguntas por el chat, también lo podemos hacer el seguimiento por ahí, o por correo electrónico. Bueno, para resaltar de pronto un punto con respecto a las conversiones de coordenadas, pues como ustedes saben, expertos en esta área de geomática geoespacial, la conversión de coordenadas es algo que, por lo que se distingue notoriamente Blue Marble Geographic, y el motivo por el cual también la mayoría de las operadoras en el mundo utilizan esta plataforma para hacer su conversión geodésica, no solamente de transformaciones de coordenadas, sino de datos horizontales, datos verticales, por cuanto implica diferencias en coordenadas que pueden llevar a la perforación de un sitio en el lugar incorrecto. Cambiando un dato podemos fácilmente tener diferencias de coordenadas de hasta 300 metros, entonces es bastante importante prestarle atención al tipo de dato, al tipo de transformación que se está haciendo, horizontal, vertical, hacer conversiones completas de modelos de elevación, de modelos digitales de terreno, archivos de uno o múltiples puntos, archivos completos vectoriales o raster. Toda esta flexibilidad se tiene a través de las aplicaciones de Blue Marble. también, no, pensaba que era una pregunta aquí. Sí, entonces, abierto a preguntas. También recordarles que estamos en nuestro stand 3 del pabellón B, para que nos visiten en la cumbre virtual. Compartimos por el chat el link para entrar a registrarse, donde pueden crear su avatar y podemos interactuar en vivo. Podemos chatear, hablar, intercambiar información de contacto, etcétera. Y también recordarles la invitación a las presentaciones que quedan del día de hoy. Se pueden registrar a través de nuestra landing page. Y la siguiente presentación va a ser sobre geología y geofísica con S.A.S a la 1 de la tarde hora de Colombia. Y a las 2 de la tarde será la presentación de QI Pro 3D. Y a las 2 de la tarde estaremos en esa presentación. Em, bueno, si no hay más preguntas, quedamos de nuevo, damos las gracias por su participación. Estamos atentos de cualquier duda, comentario o alguna presentación en específico para mirar cualquiera de nuestras soluciones. Con mucho gusto, solamente nos contactan y lo organizamos. Mil gracias a todos. Thank you very much, Jeff, for your presentation.
Yes, thank you for having me. Again, feel free to send anybody our way if they have any questions or want to try out GeoCalc online.
Thank you.